Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Author, leadership, and team development speaker, Joe Woodley. And this is another key moment for faith. Thank you so much for joining me on today's broadcast. Before we go any further, make sure you look down in the description box. You're going to find information that is certainly sure to help you on this journey we call faith. Don't forget to go to Amazon.com. You'll pick up copies of my books, including You Were Born to Win. So Suck It Up, Buttercup. It is indeed the essential guide to turning whiners into winners and losers into leaders, as well as When It Really Counts, Leading When No One Is Watching. Return Home Wounded Warriors. The Church Is You. No Generals in the House. Faith, Facts, and Fatherhood, and various other titles for your consumption. I'm so excited to have you guys on today. Oh, before I forget, make sure you check out the Key Moments for Faith live show. It's a live stream show. It's actually going to be on YouTube, and that's on every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, discussing various topics on there that affect the Christian community, particularly the Christian community. So I want to make sure you guys check that out. Just go to youtube.com, type in Key Moments for Faith, and you will find the channel there. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'm looking forward to talking to you this Thursday on that channel. As a matter of fact, real barn burner of a topic. We're talking about healing, and guys are gonna find it to be very interesting. I myself have been healed miraculously numerous times. I've witnessed healings numerous times. I'm going to answer the question though: what happens, or what's happening, what's going on when we pray for people, or we've prayed for people, and we don't see the result that we've anticipated? It's a very real topic to discover, and I think it's something that a lot of, particularly those of us who are in the charismatic line of the faith, don't like to talk about that. It can get controversial, it can get hot and heated, and there's some answers that the Bible provides that I think we need to really begin to look at, rather than kind of skirting past or skirting over the issue. So make sure you check out that show. And again, subscribe to that channel. That's Key Moments for Faith on youtube.com. Today, I really wanted to address some things that are going on in this country that I think are extraordinarily important for believers to consider, to look at, to pay attention to. Some issues that are going on that we have, for whatever reason, in numerous camps, decided to bury our heads in the sand over. It's been happening for a while. It started off as a slippery slope. But today, folks, we're in a full-fledged avalanche. The issue I'm talking about is your First Amendment rights as a believer, your First Amendment rights to speak what's on your heart, to talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the life-changing power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You may be thinking to yourselves, well, I haven't heard anything on the news or seen anything in the news about that, or I don't really know too many people whose First Amendment rights are being impacted in regards to their ability to speak up about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That type of thing only happens overseas. It happens in third world countries. It happens in other nations or other societies. That's where it's taking place. It's not happening here. Well, here's a wake-up call for you guys. Here's a wake-up call for you. It's happening here in the United States of America. This very issue that threatens our freedoms, our individual liberty to speak up, to dissent, to give our thoughts, our opinions, to share the truth that is the gospel, is under threat in the United States of America, more so now than ever before. And this is not to be an alarmist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I share facts and I share information that will empower you and help you to make the proper and appropriate decisions for you, your family, your church, your loved ones. And this is a very serious issue that's going on. After 9/11. Well, let me go back a little bit further. I watched a movie with my son the other week, and this movie, the title of the movie is actually called Enemy of the State. Enemy of the State. And the movie came out in 1999. It's a Will Smith movie. Will Smith, Gene Hackman star in it. And the premise of the movie is that these government agencies are secretly spying on American citizens. They're shaping our thoughts and our opinions of whatever it is they wish to communicate with society. That the cameras all over the place that they're spying with us, spying on us with. That our cell phones, they're spying on us on their cell phones. Now, mind you, got to go back to 1999 and realize that at that time in history, people were not really thinking that something like that could actually happen here in the United States. The majority of people were not thinking that way. In 1999, the majority of people in this country either didn't have cell phones or just kind of getting around to getting cell phones, and most cell phones were not digital. They were analog phones. There were laws that were in place that supposedly protected the citizenship or the citizenry of the United States citizens. There were policies that were in place that were supposed to prevent these things from happening. And so the premise of the movie was that the government was usurping, or there were agencies and agents within the government who were usurping their authority, overstepping the boundaries, and they were spying on citizens. And they were committing heinous acts to gain more power, more authority. And I'm not going to get into the whole premise of the movie because it is actually an excellent movie. And when my son watched it, he's like, "Well, Dad, that's where we are now." I mean, he's looking at the movie. He says, "Those are the things that are going on now." And I said, "Yes, but you have to consider what was happening in the psyche of the average American citizen at that time. Nobody was thinking that this is where we were, this is where we're going." Flash forward to 9/11. And 9/11 happened when they introduced the Patriot Act. And this is all leading to my point, folks. So I hope that you will stay tuned in. Again, this is not going to be a long broadcast, but I just want to get some historical context for how we got to where we are now and where we're headed. So the Patriot Act was instituted, and there had been an erosion of our civil liberties and civil rights over the years. But this was the first really big open step where the government said, well, we have a war on terror. We need to go after the bad guys. We need to take them out. We need to shut them down. And so in order to ensure that this happens, we need to have these authorities to spy on individuals who we deem to be threats to the United States of America, threats to the homeland. And so the Patriot Act was introduced underneath President George Bush at the time, George W. Bush at the time. Congress signed off on it. The majority of Congress, I think it was almost 100% of the members actually who signed off on the Patriot Act, because they looked and they were afraid that these foreign threats were going to take us out. Those real foreign threats. And so they signed off on it. Since the introduction of the Patriot Act has only been expanded over the last 20 years. I want to repeat that again. The invasiveness of the Patriot Act has been expanded over the last 20 years. Unfortunately, every president since George not H.W., but George W. H.W. would have been his father. Every president since George W. Bush has expanded their authorities underneath the Patriot Act. Every president. When President Obama was in office, he did it. When President Trump was in office, he did it. And now President Biden is in office, and he's doing the exact same things. As a matter of fact, he's turning the attention, or supposedly turning the attention, more toward U.S. citizens being the threat to look at. He makes remarks in regards to how your neighbor is a threat, and we really need to pay attention to what's happening here, because what they're using is terminology such as misinformation or disinformation in order to justify stripping citizens in this country of their civil liberties. That's what they're doing. They're saying that this group over there is a threat, that group over there is a threat, and we need to identify these individuals, and we need to strip the average United States citizen of their rights in order to protect their rights. Let's pay attention to what I just said. We want to strip you of your rights in order to protect your rights. It's amazing what's going on. So how did this happen? This happened because when people are afraid and people are fearful, I'm getting ready to share a couple of stories with you to emphasize or reassert the point that I'm making here in today's discussion. The government never lets a crisis go to waste. Anything that they can utilize to take away more of citizens' rights and to consolidate more power, they're going to do it. And so when the whole COVID outbreak took place last year, the COVID situation takes place, and every step of the way, the government has utilized this particular event to oppress U.S. citizens and deny them of their constitutional rights to speak and to share their thoughts, their opinions, and their ideals in a public forum. They have openly oppressed and suppressed those ideas. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, but that's just the loonies, that's just the conspiracy theorists, that's just that group over there. Well, I said this to some friends of mine earlier in the year when social media websites banned the then President of the United States, Donald Trump, from being on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and other sites when they banned him from being on there. And I know people who were cheering this on, celebrating how wonderful and fantastic it was, because they just didn't like the man, quite frankly. They didn't tell you anything about his policies, only what they heard on the news or what a friend of theirs had told them or shared with them. They really couldn't give concrete policy issues that they were not in agreement with. But they were saying that it was fantastic that they were doing it. That's going to restore democracy to the United States of America. And I, along with many other individuals, particularly individuals within the public sphere, began to really sound the alarm and say, if they can do this to the President of the United States, they can do this to you. If they can censor and deny the President of the United States his right as a citizen, because yes, he's the president, but he's also a citizen. Before being the president, he's a citizen of the United States. You don't get to be president without being a citizen. And so we're warning, if they do this to this man, they can do that to you. But people were cheering, clapping their hands, applauding. Go back a little bit further into last year, and there were people who were coming forward and expressing their thoughts and their concerns and their opinions and data that they felt was important in regards to the COVID virus. And some of the opinions that they shared were things such as, well, we think that this virus was made in a lab. There's concern that this actually came out of a lab. Well, people who expressed those thoughts and those opinions were shut down. They were called dangerous, conspiracy theorists, vaccine deniers. Numerous things happened. They were deplatformed on numerous social media platforms. I myself, even though I did not share that particular piece of information, but I was deplatformed last year when I was sharing about the importance of Christians praying for and supporting our brothers and sisters in China who are facing oppression and who have been imprisoned and have been denied human rights. I shared a post on a particular social media platform at the time. It was not long after that before my account was shut down. I was not allowed to have any type of due process. They would not explain to me why they shut it down. I wasn't sharing false information. I was sharing factual information, and I was still shut down. Why? Because it did not fit the narrative that was being propagated. So last year, false information, fake news was supposedly that this virus started in a lab at Wuhan, and you were deplatformed for sharing that information. A year later, even the government is admitting, well, yeah, there's a possibility. We're not saying that that's what happened, but there's a possibility, a very strong possibility that it came out of a lab. Suddenly, the information that was considered or deemed to be misinformation is now factual. Well, it's a possibility because the individuals who are in position of power were more interested in politics and in power and in controlling the thought processes of the average American. They were more interested in elections rather than saving people's lives. This is where we are. And so why is it a big issue? Because, brothers and sisters, over the years, there have been attempts by governing officials in various cities in the United States of America to shut down the free speech of U.S. citizens, pastors, clergymen, individuals on the street, there has been a concerted effort to deny believers their right. I personally believe that it is important for believers to wake up, smell the coffee, the roses, whatever you need to sniff, so that you can wake up and see what's going on. Because I'm here to tell you, folks, if they take away someone else's right to free speech, someone else's right to free thought, someone else's right to their opinion, they're coming after you too. They're coming after you too. We cannot have the mentality that we want to protect our right to free speech but deny others their right. No. We need to protect everyone their right to free speech, because once one individual is denied, then we will be denied. I'm not talking about in the private sphere. I'm talking about in the public sphere. Obviously, within your church, your organization, your denomination, you have policies, procedures, protocols, standards that you abide by. But I'm talking about the operation of the church within the broader society, the context of a democratic republic, or the democratic republic that we call the United States of America. We must stand up for individuals' rights to free speech, lest we lose ours. Several years ago, there were mayors in various cities of this country, and this is going to happen again, who were demanding to get the Sunday sermons of pastors in various churches and in various denominations to determine whether those messages constituted hate speech. They were demanding that they get those sermons. Why? Because attached to those demands were, if we deem this to be hate speech, then we're going to come after you. We're going to shut your church and your organization down. Every one of us knows, those of us who are true blue believers, who truly believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, who are avid readers of the Bible, know that the Word of God teaches things that do not align with public opinion, with today's public opinion, today's public thought process, today's morals, today's mindset. The Bible clearly speaks against certain lifestyles, behaviors, actions, attitudes. And in today's culture, individuals who are in positions of power are seeking to shut down your church's right to speak the Word of God, to speak the truth. They are actively pursuing what they call to be fake news, fake doctrines, fake ideologies, fake thought process. They are actively seeking to shut those things down. It's time to wake up, folks. It's time to wake up and see what's happening in this country. I'm going to read this article here out of the New York Post really quickly. I'm not going to obviously read the whole thing because it's a pretty lengthy article. But if you think I'm playing here or think I'm kidding you, this is not a conspiracy theory. Believers need to stand up. We need to set aside our differences, set aside our offense toward one another, set aside our quote-unquote politics, and we need to start standing up for what's right, or we're going to lose our rights to assemble. Last year, churches all over the United States of America were shut down, and many willfully shut down and continue to be shut down today. They're not assembling in person or online because of information that has been propagated by the government. You need to be aware that they're not going to just settle with Donald Trump, and they're not going to settle with the guy who's down the street that they call a conspiracy theorist, and that individual, someone else that you know that may be saying something that you don't like. They're not going to be satisfied with that. When you're dealing with people who are authoritarian, this is what they call authoritarian. where you're dealing with individuals who have an authoritarian mindset in regards to governing, they are going to seek to disrupt, diminish, and dissolve any dissenting thought, anything that does not line up with the narrative that they wish to propagate. So this article is written by Stephen Nelson, July the 15th, from the New York Post, and it's entitled, "The White House is Flagging Posts for Facebook to Censor Over COVID Misinformation." The White House is flagging posts for Facebook to censor over COVID misinformation. Now, mind you, several weeks prior to this article coming out, it was also revealed that the White House, in conjunction with the DNC, which is the Democrat National Committee, was working together to seek ways to censor people's text messages. In other words, to get into your text message and deny you the right to share text messages with your friends where you have a thought or an opinion that may not align with the particular narrative that is being propagated by the United States government or whoever the powers that be are. And so they want to work with your telephone company, stop your message from going through, to either censor your message or prevent you from receiving someone else's message. Of course, the DNC denied this, but this article is basically confirming what the previous story was, that they are, in fact, actively seeking to deny this. Now, you may be thinking, like, "Oh, wow, this sounds absolutely fantastic. They're doing this to protect us." No, they're not doing it to protect you. They're doing it to consolidate power over you. Because when I control, or if I can control the narrative, I can control how you think. I can control how you feel. I can control how you respond. I can control how you view morals and faith and religion and spirituality and God. I can control those things when I control the narrative that's propagated through media. The media is a powerful tool, and they know this. And so the article reads, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Thursday the Biden administration is identifying problematic, this is in quotation marks, posts for Facebook to censor because they contain misinformation about COVID-19. Now, we just got finished saying that last year they shut people down on social media for what they deemed to be misinformation, but now a year later, they're saying, well, maybe we were wrong about that. This is after they have destroyed people's careers. This is after they have isolated them from society. This is after they have censored and banned them. Now we're saying a year later, well, it's something a little bit different. So who are the purveyors of truth? And just this is why you have a First Amendment. Because who decides what's true and what's false? I cannot say that I trust the government to tell me what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false. Because why? Because the government is run by men and women. They're run by individuals who are corruptible. And there are corrupt things that happen within our government. And government authorities lie to us all the time in order to push certain narratives. In order for them to get what they want, they lie. The government lies. Sorry about my friends who absolutely adore Anthony Fauci, but the man lies. He's admitted to lying numerous times, and the media locked in with him step by step last year as he lied, and as they knew he was lying. And then when he changed the story, they changed with him, and nobody came forward and said, well, you know what, I'm sorry, we messed up. We made a mistake. The story's not quite true. A year later, something different. And so they are censoring. They want to go in and flag stories or flag posts and censor them for misinformation. Psaki disclosed that the government role in policing social media during her press. She disclosed the government's role in policing social media during her daily press briefing after Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called on companies to purge more pandemic posts. They're coming for you guys. You think that some of you think, oh, this is fantastic. I think that most people can consume information and decipher it and figure out for their own. I think it was a week earlier the president said, they asked him, said, well, why are you doing it? He said, well, Facebook is killing people. Facebook is killing people. No, Facebook is not killing people. As a matter of fact, Facebook needs to have a more open forum for discussion. But it's the White House basically casting blame on social media because of their failings, their failures. And let me make this clear. I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. But I'm going to tell the truth and let the pieces fall where they may. Like I talked about earlier with the Patriot Act, and I said that every president since George W. Bush instituted the Patriot Act has strengthened the Patriot Act, has expanded the power and the reach of the Patriot Act. That includes Democrats and Republicans. Donald Trump, President Obama, and now Joe Biden. They're all have pushed to expand the reach of the Patriot Act. That's a nonpartisan issue. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm gonna call you out. I don't care which side. I don't play team sports like that. I'm on Team Jesus. That's what team I'm on. Both parties have frankly disappointed the American people. And if there's a story about a Republican president doing this, I'd be on them just as much because it's not right. It's wrong. It's a violation of our constitutional rights here in the United States of America. And we have enjoyed those rights as Christians in this country, unlike anywhere else. We need to wake up. The article further goes on to say the demand for censorship and for Psaki's admission of government involvement follows a series of flip-flops from health officials who contradicted themselves throughout the pandemic on issues such as mask efficacy, as well as censorship of claims that later gained credibility, such as the theory that COVID-19 leaked from a Chinese lab. This is the junk that's been going on for a year. Again, who are the purveyors of truth? Who decides what's fake news and what's not? Who decides this? Are you going to tell me? Are you going to tell me that the news industry should do it? A news industry that is politically slanted, that has ulterior motives in the stories that they produce and that they promote and that they push out there for the consumers to feast on? You mean the media that has lied repeatedly on various topics? Turn on any, I don't care, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're all slanted, one way or another. They're all slanted. Nobody wants to give you just the straight facts. So who decides what's true and what's not? And if you as a believer and as a Christian think that this does not affect you, you are sadly mistaken, folks. You are next in line. They've gone after other groups that they've deemed to be terrorist groups, that they've deemed to be threats to this country. They're doing the same thing to you. They're going to do the same thing. I told you last year, I did the post about Christians being oppressed and imprisoned in China, and my account was shut down. Facebook, Instagram, yes, I'm calling them out. Facebook, Instagram took me down and said that I was violating their terms of use for sharing that story. Story reads further, we are in regular touch with social media platforms and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff and also members of COVID-19 team. Given, as Dr. Murphy conveyed, this is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. Again, who decides what's true and what's false? She added, we've increased this information research and tracking, so they have all of, now the things that we need help with in this country, all the stuff that's going on, they're spending all of these resources chasing after what you say, what I say, what the guy down the street around the corner saying. They're going after you guys. We've increased this information research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We are flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. Who decides the disinformation? Oh, we want to figure this out here. Saki added, it is important to take faster action against harmful posts, and Facebook needs to move more quickly to remove harmful, violative posts. So now they want to set the policies for private companies. They want to set the policies for them. That's what they want to do now. This is what I said. This is what we call authoritarianism. And when you're dealing with authoritarianism, they are not looking out for your best interest. They're looking to consolidate power. And the only way they can consolidate power is to deceive you into believing that if you give up your rights, if you give up your personal responsibilities, if you give up your personal authority and you hand it over to them, that they're going to protect your rights and your personal responsibilities. But once you've given it up, you don't have it anymore. They have all the rights. They have all the power. They have all of the authority. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so this is where we're headed. Saki and Murphy, who also spoke at the press briefing, specifically said they are concerned about misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. Here's the truth that they're not going to tell you. They don't know what's going to happen long term. I'm not telling you to go take the vaccine. I'm not telling you shouldn't take the vaccine. What I am saying to you is that anybody who thinks they can tell you the long-term implications of taking these shots, that they know the long-term implications, is lying to you. They don't know because their studies are not there. We are all in the midst of a massive experiment. We're basically guinea pigs. They can't tell you that. They can't tell you what's going to happen 5 years down the line. They can't tell you what's going to happen 15 years down the line. They can't tell you what's going to happen 25 or 30 years down the line. They don't know. Why? Because they don't have the data to provide and say, we know that this is what's going to happen. These vaccines were created within a matter of months. It generally takes years before they can fully comprehend or communicate the efficacy of any of these new drugs or vaccines that they create. That's just the truth. Ask anyone in the medical community who's going to be honest with you. Generally, they undertake years of study before they release it. They didn't do that in this case. And since they haven't done that, they cannot tell you. They can say, it's like I have doctors that I go and I get my checkups and get my visits in. I have 2 doctors who told me, you probably shouldn't do it. I'm not doing it. That's me. I'm not. But I've had 2 doctors who told me I probably shouldn't do it. One, because they said my health history, they're concerned that it could trigger something or cause something. So they're like, and they just flat out said, we don't know what's going to happen. All right, we can't tell you what's going to happen. Another doctor said the same thing. We can't tell you what's going to happen. And then another doctor who tried to press me into getting it. And I said, doctor, why should I do it? Well, because you have to, you need to have it to protect yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to get COVID. I said, well, what if I've already had COVID? Well, You probably didn't, but how do you know? They can't answer those questions. That's why I said, and conversations like that need to be had. This is not conspiracy theorist stuff. This is real life. You really think that they're going to stop with censoring posts over COVID or vaccines or whatever else? No, they're going to start getting to your religious stuff too. I don't like this Jesus thing that you're talking about. So I want to shut that down. Jesus is the only way? Man, that sounds like hate speech to me. Let's shut that down. The Bible says, what about homosexuality? Oh, we need to ban the Bibles. The Bible says, what about people living together or having sex before marriage or whatever else? The Bible says this. What about? Well, that sounds like hate speech to me. Let's put them in the middle of the street and burn them. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long, guys, to get there. You think that this is just some fantasy, some make-up talk. Somebody's come up with this off the top of their head. This is just in a movie. It's like that movie my son and I watched the other week, Any Made the State. People couldn't fathom we get to that point. I remember as a kid, people telling me things that would never happen in the United States of America, and I'm telling you, in the last 30 years, the very things that they told me would not happen have happened in this country. Oh, we will never. They'll never attack the United States of America on its own soil. You know why? I had a teacher tell me this when I was in school. It'll never happen because we go and kick their butts. That's why, because they're afraid of us. Oh, there'll never be gay marriage. Oh, abortions, they'll come to an end. Oh, this is going to happen. Oh, that's going to happen. That'll never happen over there. That'll never happen over there. But we've buried our heads in the sand as believers, and the consequence is now we're dealing with this stuff. We're on the verge of going through some serious dystopian times. Some very dark times are coming upon this nation, and we've got our heads buried. We're so busy. You got one sector cheering on and so glad that Donald Trump was banned, can't even see that this is going to impact them. That the people I don't like, get rid of them. As long as I get to say what I want to say. You're next. Brothers and sisters, you're next. It says misinformation takes away our freedom, which is a lie. That is not true. But this is the stuff that they're saying openly. Nobody wants to respond. Misinformation takes away our freedom to make informed decisions. No, you as a citizen need as much information as possible. It's your responsibility as a citizen. That's why it's called having rights. Your responsibility to decipher what's real and what's fake. Misinformation takes away our freedom to make informed decisions about our health and the health of our loved ones during the COVID-19 pandemic. Health misinformation has led people to resist the wearing masks. The misinformation has come from you guys. 1 minute you say wear them, the next minute you say don't. 1 minute you say do this, the next minute you say don't do it. It's on the government. So my brothers and sisters, as we're closing out, I want to implore you to get active, to get engaged, to get involved. Do not allow, I don't care who's in the White House, Democrat or Republican, do not allow them to take your rights. Do not take your rights for granted. You have a responsibility as a citizen of this country where so many men and women have died so that you would have the right to speak, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, or whatever your thought process or opinion is. Do not let that die. Do not let any authoritarian power come in and try to take that from you. Stop it now. Thank you for joining me on another Key Moments of Faith. I'm author, leadership, and team development speaker Joe Woodley. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.